Well, it's 7:03. I think, Blaine, you're here. This is really this is your time. And why don't you run us through how phase one works?
Um, you know, we'll make this light at first and then we'll get real serious. Okay. But a town is saved not by the righteous men in it, then by the woods and swamps that surround it. My buddy Thoreau. But you know where that came from, this quote, besides Thoreau? Anybody want to guess where I pulled this from? This is from the Chatham
Oh, is it from our Chatham
Master Plan.
Master Plan?
This is right from the master plan. Okay. That's page 1 of your master plan. You hired me to look at the ecological integrity of that slope in the area behind River Road. This started simply as a observational exercise to try to look at your master plan, your natural resource inventory, what's been presented by the town thus far as it relates to environmental integrity of the site behind it. Again, this is all, everybody in the group, I assume, know that this was propelled by 2 Bobcat videos, okay? Brought to everybody's attention that, hey, this is not an insignificant greenway connection. So hire an ecologist and confirm it through that person's expertise. So that's why I'm here tonight, is to tell you what my findings were. In the limited amount of time you've given me to do this, but I'm gonna tell you that I probably quadrupled the time. Even as recently, I went out, I have to be on my own. Gary, I love you, but the only way I see stuff is when I'm walking through these woods by myself. I'm going to prove it to you in a second. So I hope you guys will get a little excited. I'll give you a little foreshadow.
Suspense.
What I found, a little suspense. But you have 7 miles of greenway behind River Road from Watchung through to the past the right of way. If you look on a map, and I'll go right to the map that okay, so everybody sees that map, right? This is only about 4 miles here behind your homes, but if you look at the greenway from a satellite picture, it stretches into New Providence. It weaves along the Passaic River, along all those the county parks, right? That's 6 miles of actually open space land, which from an ecologist standpoint, you look at the slope and you say that's buffer to that corridor. You do have River Road and the houses snug between, but it's acting as an ecological corridor. It also shoots up right into the Great Swamp. All this is the Great Swamp, right? So it's tentacled. Think of it as an octopus, because the body of the octopus is the swamp. All the tentacles are the greenway connections. The language within the open space master plan talks about the preservation. Now, remember what a master plan is, right? This was in 2009. You're supposed to re-up it, 2010. You're supposed to re-up it every 10 years. So it should be discussed, especially from Dorothy Stillinger and her gang, to toilet train their town to say, we got to re-up this master and bolster it and see where we failed and where the directives within this master plan have succeeded. Remember, a master plan is not an ordinance. It's not a legal binding. I know we have a lawyer here, right? Who is the lawyer in the group? Okay. Was that the one who shook the screen just now? Is that the lawyer?
I think we got a few lawyers.
Yeah.
We have a few lawyers. Okay.
You got Heather and Farito, and you got 2 on that end. So there's at least
And Tom also. Tom Tether.
Tom, of course.
Also.
I'm
Oh,
here
good.
Yeah,
too.
we're
So
loaded.
we're just loaded with lawyers tonight. That's great. So, it doesn't have the teeth, but it does have the directive. And it's up to you, the townspeople, to hold your elected officials to the resources that you've put out on these. These things didn't cost nothing. They didn't fall like manna from the sky. They were bought and paid for. And they're in your town planning board is supposed to refer to it, and also your town, of course, your committees and councils should be using it as a blueprint to predict development into the future, right? That's what this is. And it's laced with all the evidence the planning board needs to deny this application, right? The lands for scenic vistas, steep slopes, ecology. The word ecology and environment is used in that open space master plan 36 times, right? This is what we should be protecting, our areas of highest environmental sensitivity. That's in there. I just snippeted this out of here. Your stream corridors, floodplains, wetlands. Now, the river corridor should be buffered. Well, the buffer is the River Road slope. And why is that important? Because it not only buffers you from non-point source pollution, but it also creates corridors for wildlife to traverse. Now, give you a little fun part, right? I went out, these pictures were taken on the River Road. I'm a professional wildlife photographer. I'm published all over the place. So I didn't mind going out on a nice day. And because I knew warblers and migrating birds would be running through that ridge. If I testify after, you cross their experts, and if I have an opportunity to talk about the environmental position in the landscape, its greenway connectivity and all these things that are in that open space, the first image I'm going to use is the worm-eating warbler up on the screen. How many of you would even have ever heard of that bird before? Anybody? Any birders out
Yeah,
there?
me.
The Michael.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen
So
them.
this is a glow. This is the guild suite of that this belongs to. This warbler belongs to. They're in severe decline globally. Not just the species, but all the other warblers I'm going to show you that I took in one day in about 3 hours on that ridge. I knew it would be an epic day because of weather patterns. We were just getting over rain, and I looked at maps where we literally have radar maps now that show you clusters of bird migration. It's incredible. So I knew that there was going to be a fallout. We call it a fallout. So where they need, when they're coming up from South America and Central America, they need Burger Kings to refuel to stop on the highway. In this case, it's the Atlantic Flyway. So they need to drop out and feed because they time it, the phenology, fancy way of saying the timing of leaf out with the emergence of insects, midges, flies, beetles, right? Burger Kings are being stocked. The supply chain is full. So I go out, and this is why corridors like the ones behind River Road are so important. We can't lose them because they act as the feeding stations during this migration. Now, why the worm-eating warbler, right? This particular species loves steep slopes. It'll breed. When I use my calling device, I use an app on my phone. And when I used it for this species, I said, this is a rocky ledge. It's early spring. Why not, right? So the first time I played it between 616 and 400 in the 400s on River Road, that section of woods, really tough. By the way, anybody who's walked your backyard, tried the multi-floor rows, listen, hush, hush, mush, mush. It's an invasive nightmare back there, right? It's just an ecological mess from a vegetative standpoint, but it doesn't mean it's insignificant. A matter of fact, it just means that they should preserve it and start to do restoration on the Chatham Township open space areas instead of potentially using, what is it, Gary, lot 70 that they want to potentially use? That by the way, on your, believe me, I'll get back to that worm eating warbler and tell you why it's so important, but I'm jumping around. Where is that? Oh, that section. Is it the last slide? That's blah, 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 blah. Where is it? Oh, yeah. Look what they call it on a Google map. The River Road easement. The River Road, you ready for this? A nature preserve. Has anybody realized that was on Google Maps as a nature preserve? It's not just open space. They're calling it out as a nature preserve. So, you know, they're planning on breaking this up. They're planning on fragmenting it. So back to the worm-eating warbler. If you have this species doing its vocalization in spring like this, chances are it's breeding on this ridge. It's a state special concern. It's not endangered, it's not threatened. As far as I'm concerned, should be endangered. But guys like me have to fight that out in committees that upgrade species. But this species is so, you don't see it, and you don't see it much. Even in good core areas of habitat, you don't see it vocalizing its breeding song unless it's going to actually utilize that very specific type of a habitat. So this would be my opening salvo slide, and anything to the board, you know, this is why, one, this is why we're losing species. And number two, you, the board, have the tools in the shed to protect these. You have the language that speaks to it completely. You might not know what a worm-eating warbler is, but your town fathers, the people who have created these master plans in it, have through acceptance in township meetings, right? They have to approve the document. So you could go back and say on blah, blah day, you approved this master plan. Therefore, you agreed with the tenets therein. But it wasn't just that bird. Here's an American redstart male on your ridge, okay? Sunday. Common yellowthroat on your ridge. This is a wetland. You know where I got this, Gary? Right by the pond.
Michael?
The spring. And I'm sure Mike's out there. I'm pretty sure he is. So, by the way, this was the Saturday. This is the long-eared owl I got on Mike's property back, I don't know, 10 years ago. Red-tailed hawks, very common. I wish we had a red shoulder back there, but they're nesting back there. There were two nests that I located through walking back there and having them fly up. And doesn't surprise anybody, right? You're on a high slope that's where protected. The rufous-sided towhee singing his call everywhere back there. This is a common bird of your backyards. And I'm assuming that, making an assumption, I apologize to anybody who says, oh, I know what a towhee is, but I'm assuming not too many people have ever seen a rufous-sided towhee.
We
right?
might have heard it. Why don't can you impersonate the birds?
Okay, yeah, well, this is one of the easiest ones. I can't do the call, but I can do the mnemonic. You ready? Drink your tea. And that's, I'll play it for you. It sounds exactly like drink your tea. Hang on. Wait for it. Drink your tea.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Can you hear it?
Hmm?
Okay. Well, now you know what bird that is in your backyard these days. A gorgeous male. The female is less.
Color.
But this is now we just got the coyote sightings. Well, I had the one on Huron a few weeks ago. This is from the game camera, not this picture. This is my own picture, but you guys had coyotes. You've had bobcats. You've had black bear. Thank you, Mike. I think you're out there in TV land, but you had a beautiful game camera black bear. This is a black bear that I took up in the base of the Kittatinny Ridge. But here's your game, just a snippet. I've been sending Gary reports on a regular basis, but you have all what I call the mesopredators, the common anthropogenic species like fox, obviously the hoofed locust deer, the opossums. We thought we had a gray fox, squirrels, turkeys, woodchucks. You can imagine, you name it. You know what we haven't had on a game camera yet is a skunk. I know they're back there, but they just didn't trip the game camera yet.
Yeah, I have pictures of those if you want one.
Well, if it's in your backyard, yeah, just to add to the focus. But the real stuff is this bird migration that, yes, you might not have breeding birds, although the worm eating, if I went out this week, I could confirm that's actually breeding on the slope. I probably should do that. But the bottom line is this is a ecologically viable tentacle to the Great Swamp. That's my position in all of this. That summarizes really what we want to do. We want to connect or tether the biodiversity of that ridge with the open space directives and the natural resource inventory information that confirms all of this from 2008, I think is when that resource inventory was done. And you have recently, no one that I've seen in any of the information Gary's given me from the town meetings, anybody talking about this at all. Of course, they haven't gotten their submissions in with letters of interpretation that show wetlands, what the buffer should be, how they're going to deal with stormwater. All I'm reading is from you guys that it's going to be, of all the places to do it, this is the wrong place because of, you got to spend a lot of money to get rid of storage up and over the mountain. You got to have stormwater that's running off. How are you going to assure that gets back into the ground properly to keep what little water is in the woodlands to keep the vegetative communities intact? Those are the things that I could subsequently look into for you as they submit their actual plans on how they plan on getting the round peg in the square hole. But right now, as far as I see it, you have proof by me and the testimony by myself to provide to in an open forum, if you wanted me to continue to work for you. I see my best my best use would be as an expert to testify about the ecological integrity of the ridge currently and historically, and its importance to the Passaic River parks and to the Great Swamp watershed as a connected, viable greenway. Also, it fits perfectly with the state master plans, connecting wildlife through New Jersey, a directive from the Endangered Non-Game Species Program. Gary probably mentioned to the group that I've been in contact with the state's bobcat biologist, who I know personally and have gone out with. Matter of fact, she was in the Great Swamp a few weeks ago tracking bobcats, and she's gotten scat from bobcat recent enough. Again, are bobcats going to den on that ridge? Who knows? Maybe. But the bottom line is they've utilized it, and they probably continue to utilize it. It'd be great to get a current snapshot of one crossing. Again, bobcats have huge home ranges. They get hit by cars all the time. Their biggest mortality component is the vehicle. Their populations have increased north of the state, but it's hard to get to new territories like the Great Swamp without getting hit at some point in their, 5 to 10 year lifespan. Anyway, that's the down and dirty synopsis of what I feel you have
Blaine,
moving forward.
can you take a question? Are you that, or you want to get through this?
That's really the meat and the potatoes right there.